it's the last one. We made it to 12 of 12 for Vlogmas 2024, and we've been trying to beat the tie. It went from 3 to 4 down to 2. You know what? I'm going to take the challenge. But Dorothy Zbornak Said, Golden Girl-isms for authors meets a thank you letter to your character. You gave me a challenge. Let's see how it goes. Not now, Ma. We made it! Happy 12 of 12 Vlogmas 2024. It's been an amazing year, and we have one more bonus vlog tomorrow. That'll be my last for this year before we go cruising headlong into 2025. Welcome on in, everybody. Thank you for being a friend. My name is Jenna O'Malley. I am your soul writer, author of sci-fi fantasy with dashes of romance, and let's get golden on them nerdy references, shall we? A little bit of knowing my audience is knowing my audience, to be fair in this regard, and I know that quite a few of us have talked about Golden Girls and Golden Girl-isms off and on over the years. I am that 80s baby, 90s kid who grew up watching it do its original run with my mom watching it. Eventually in syndication a lot growing up. Thank you, Nick at Night. And eventually, I want to say, Hallmark also, I think, had it for a long time too. And then, of course, if it weren't for having 7 seasons on DVD in college with no cable, no streaming services in the early 2010s, I probably would not have survived. So thank you, Golden Girls, for giving me all the sanity that you have. And as many of you are probably not shocked, one of my favorite characters, of course, is Dorothy Zbornak. Yeah, one of my favorite English teachers, to be fair. I definitely have to agree. Having taught British Lit, the symbolism has never left. Oh, the building. You can take the teacher out of the classroom. There are just certain isms that just aren't going away, Dorothy. No, they are not. We're looking at certain quotes today that are Golden Girl-isms for authors. So sometimes I'll be mentioning Rose or Blanche, or sometimes my ultimate favorite character of all time, because I would want to be Sophia Petrillo when I grow up, Sophia. So, first and foremost, one of my favorite quote exchanges is one of the times when Rose goes, "This reminds me of a time of something that happened back in St. Olaf." And I've been this editor and this coach before. Dorothy replies with every time one of us has something to say, you have to bring up back in St. Olaf, back in St. Olaf, back in St. Olaf, do we need the story? And of course, Rose is all like, awkward silence. So back in St. Olaf, and I'm like, yeah, I've been that overwriting author before. Dear overwriters, combining this with the, comparative example in another episode where Blanche looks at Rose and goes, "I cannot stand it again. Bing, bang, boom. Tickets were taken care of." And Dorothy looks at Rose and says, "Take notes. That's how you tell a story." Yes. Yeah, definitely to the point is better. To the point is... Don't argue with me. Anyway, I have a sassy French vampire going in my head. Are you sure about that, soul writer? Shush, Frey. Anyway, so before you start, also, in your mornings, or in your evenings, or when you're tired, Dorothy has another really good line or two for dealing with people who just won't let you have your space. Be very blunt. If you need your coffee and you need to be left alone, look at them and say, before you start, just keep in mind, I'm very vulnerable right now, so kind of the response that you're going to get from me is the response you're going to get from me from about whatever you're going to tell me, especially if it's something that is not necessarily importante. Yeah, since moving here, having to adapt to an office door again instead of a stairwell being my office door has caused several instances of me having to get the schnoz scared out of myself. Because people will just be like, "Hey Jenna, what?" And I'm, right there concentrating. So, sorry. Realize I'm kind of vulnerable right now. I'm obviously not in tune with this world mentally. I am here physically, not mentally applies. Be kind to us writers. Thank you very much. And then, of course, when people are being really rude about it, one of my favorite lines from Dorothy ever. "My feet have wings, barf bag." In other words, leave me alone. When someone doubts you, especially, imposter syndrome included, look, just go that way, barf bag, outside the door and slam it. Those of us who are real fans of the Golden Girls know that there's an exclamation point engraved into the door to give all the actresses and actors something to glare at when they slammed the door. Sometimes you gotta do that. Sometimes you gotta do what Dorothy would do to Stan. This is my boundary. Deal with it. Sorry, I'm busy. I need to finish this thing. We as writers tend to be very empathetic, tend to be caregivers, tend to have 1,000,001 demands of us. And yet, the requirement of what we do is to plant our butts in said chair and do said thing, or if you're in standing desk mode, to stand/walk/be at the desk and do the thing, however it is your writing process goes, if you dictate, if you handwrite, whatever. The hardest part is showing up to it and putting a boundary around it. Many of us are told for so often in our lives that what we're doing doesn't matter. And Dorothy Zbornak, as an English teacher, there's an episode where she's dealing with a student played by Mario Lopez, character also named Mario, I think, where she is very much defending his right to have a story that exists here, not just where his family is not exactly well documented, immigrated from, right? And she tells him, we're going to get you back here. Why? Because she knows his voice has power here. So I feel that not just as a teacher, but I feel that as a coach. And it's a core fundamental value and part of my mission and vision in my business of I've seen people literally give up their power to their authentic, expressive voice through writing willingly with two phrases that drive me insane. I don't know, I don't care. Oh my God. Dear college professors and workforce peoples, we tried with the current generation. I love all of you who are 20s and younger. I taught your generation. You all know some of your classmates. That is all I will say. That might not be you. However, you went to school with that kid. That every response to everything that was a written answer was, I don't know, I don't care. You are giving up your power of your authentic voice with those words every time you write them. I'm so glad that the people who are listening to this get it, because if you get it, write I know and I care in the comment box, please. Please. And I bet a lot of you are probably thinking about, if not people you went to school with, regardless of your generation, because I went to school with that in the 90s and early aughts, to be fair. Went to college with that too. Some of you have nieces, nephews, grandchildren, children, spouses, whomever in your life, who you're like, yeah, I know that person in the barrel of my apples of the orchard of my life. So, if you take a chance on life, therefore, sometimes good things will happen. Sometimes bad things will happen. And like Dorothy goes on to complete the quote to say, but honey, if you don't take the chance at all, nothing happens. The cycle never ends. You're stuck in the pain, my friends. Sometimes getting out of the comfort zone hurts. Sometimes leaving a bad situation that is familiar hurts. Sometimes facing your own self by sitting the butt in the chair and doing the thing, and it's just you and that blank page and your characters, or your research you're writing for nonfiction. I see you people, because I do that under my legal name. So, you matter. You should care to know how much your voice matters. Not just because a former English teacher, Dorothy Zbornak, and I told you so. Because you owe it to your own inner, authentic, soul-driven self. Like, you know, the player inside the mech suit, that person matters too. So, you're 5 years older. So is Dorothy, so is Blanche. So you have some more pains. So does Dorothy, so does Blanche. Rose, darling, you're not too old. You are not too old. I grew up in a household often where, because my brothers have the same last name but no relation to Grandma Moses for George, Joe, and Dennis, we often heard the quote being thrown around among that side of the family of, you know what they said about the Moseses? We can start whenever we want, and it'll still be good. Yeah, my brother Dennis is living testament to that. The dude didn't figure out until he was like late 30s, early 40s, aka my age, that he wanted to be a vet tech. Now he's going into his 50s. Loving what he does. He owns a grooming business. He's gotten recognition in the local news in Baltimore for being totally epic for what he does as a groomer working as a vet tech too, because guess who gets to do the grooming as the vet tech if a doggo needs shaved for surgery? And my brother Dennis is one of those people that I agree. Sometimes hanging with the pets is better hanging with the humans. So, those are his children. Like, seeing him accept that it was okay to live a life where he worked with pets, that was awesome to watch growing up, because I was in high school, college when he went through that because of the age difference. He's about 18 years older than me. So now I'm going through it and literally reminding myself, your brother didn't figure it out until he was this age. It's okay that I went to college and didn't stay an English teacher. Just like Dorothy owns up and admits, it's okay that I'm just a substitute teacher. An underpaid, overworked substitute teacher. You know? As she goes on to say a couple of times, I've been that substitute teacher. Literally, for the first year or so of being out of college, no one wanted to hire me because I was too good as a sub. Yeah, I am so sorry that's happening to a lot of teachers still, depending on your content area, because English is still one of those content areas that when English teachers would get in a good position, they would stay there until it was time to retire, or it was time to go and be in the next realm, if you know my understanding there. So, what if it takes you this long? You're showing up when you are able. Therefore, you deserve to put the boundaries in place. It doesn't matter what your parents want, Rose. It doesn't matter what your children want in the long run. Let them nag you. Let them get on your nerves. Don't let them pinhold you, push you out of doing what you want to do. Even if all you have is 20 minutes a day to sit down and write, protect that 20 minutes. Even if all you do during that 20 minutes is just tinker around a little bit in the world you write. That's fine. You showed up. Just keep showing up. Because ultimately, we're going to segue into the activity portion of this here in a second. Ultimately, I have woken up more than one night myself, quoting Dorothy Zbornak, saying, "What the bleep is going on in this house?" to my characters. Because they will wake me up with the weirdest ideas in the middle of the night. If I don't show up for them on the routine, they will let me know I need to. So, as one of your last journaling activities for 2024, I would like to entice you to join me and write a thank you letter to your characters. Even if you're not published yet, even if you haven't finished a manuscript yet, it can be very general. It can be to a specific character. Since he keeps chattering in my ear, and since the whole rebrand was your fault anyway, it might be Frey who I write it to this time, when I write it personally. But in the past, I've written it to Neftiri. For example, I thank her for being here with me. She waited a long time for me to say, okay, I will finish your story and publish it and let it be shared to the world. I was a teenager when I first met her. It took me half a life later, double that, for me to own up and admit that if my students were publishing while they were in college, I had no excuse to wait around anymore. And then I was blocking myself. That was my big lesson for 2024. I get in my own way too often and slow myself down in tiny ways. Therefore, all the more, thank you to Neftiri for waiting, for being patient, for letting me learn lessons as she also grew. Because, whoa, book 1 Neftiri is nothing like book 5 Neftiri. Like, seriously, writing for Neftiri in the spin-offs, in the side quests, she's so much more mature. She's so much more willing to own up that she's ready to learn from her mistakes. Yes, she is a former queen. Yes, she has all the regality and knows how to use power. She also understands she has a lot of stuff to learn. And she's 1,300 plus years old when these books are going on. So if she's that old and admitting that she has a lot to learn, oh, I have a bunch of stuff to learn in my very, very short existence, and I'm very grateful to her for reminding me of something I promised 15 years ago, to be a lifelong learner no matter what. And sometimes it had to be done kicking and screaming. But thank you, my characters, for always being there. Thank you for dealing with the fact that edits are not always smooth, even if we think we plotted this thing well. Thank you for being patient with me finding the people who will love on your books the way you deserve most. Thank you for resonating with the people who need to enjoy your books most. Thank you for picking me to be your soul writer, guys. Seriously. I used to drive to and from my in-person teaching gig before 2020. It was an hour or so ride one way, depending on the school I worked at. And the music I listened to now gave me the thoughts it did when I was driving for a reason. Hammerfall's Bloodbound inspired book 1's title, Bound by Fate and Blood. And thank you to the people who produced that inspirational storytelling like music in the European rock and metal scene. Looking at you, Hammerfall, looking at you, Charlotte Vessels, looking at you, Epica, looking at you, Camelot, and so many more. Thank you for being that, because it helped me hone in to know this vibrant cast of characters very, very well. Thank you to my readers for coming along the way, and thank you to all of you, from my inner self to yours. 2024 was a roller coaster. Ups and downs, screams and laughter. It's all worth it. Take care of yourself. Your voice has value. Dang it.